Eating nothing but meat and fruit seems to be gaining more and more popularity these days. And for the next 7 days, I'm going to be jumping on the bandwagon to see what sort of results I can get from the process. Now, I am pretty nervous about doing something like this because it is a far cry from my usual flexible nutrition approach. But let's dive straight into meal number one. This is my meal number one, and this is also pre-run, so I have 5 chicken heck sausages and 1 banana. This is my pre-run meal. Now, before we get further into things, let's take our starting pictures and measurements. Now, you'll see these flashing up on the screen as I walk through them, but while we're here, let's take a very close look at the foods I am actually allowed to eat over the next 7 days. I'm essentially going to be running on meat, fish, and dairy for my protein sources, along with fruit and honey for my carbohydrates. Now, I have an 18-kilometer run coming up at the end of this week, which I think is going to be incredibly difficult, considering I'm going to be pretty low on carbs. Now, it's probably not going to have much of an impact the first couple of days, but this is probably going to catch up by the time I get to those longer distance runs. So I've just finished up a 5-kilometer run. Now, we did set a PB of 24 minutes and about 30 seconds, so the lack of starchy carbs didn't seem to affect my performance today. But this is my sort of post-workout meal. We've got 2 eggs, we've got 3 slices of bacon. This is UK bacon, which means there's actually a good bit of lean meat on it. And then we also have some strawberries here as well. This is my post-workout meal, probably a sort of early lunch, as it is 11:40 right now. And that is my meal number 2. It is afternoon snacking time for me, and this is literally the only way I can stay on plan, is being prepared with convenient no prep snacks. I have some yogurt here that is good to go apparently on this sort of diet. I've got my banana, and I also have little Baby Bell cheese for some extra proteins and fats, but I am between calls. It is 14:55. My last call ended at 14:50, and I have another call at 3 p.m. here. So again, the only way I can stick to a nutrition plan is by having convenient options like these to hand at all times. Now, why would you even consider doing the meat and fruit diet? Well, there are a lot of people online who say that plants are full of anti-nutrients and that you shouldn't be consuming vegetables. They're full of things like glyphosate, which can cause poisoning in the body. However, when you actually look at these studies, people who consume more vegetables and less saturated fats actually tend to live longer and have a higher quality life. And I personally believe that starchy carbohydrate can absolutely be part of a healthy, nutritious diet. So dinner meal for me this evening is going to be some salmon. I have 1 avocado and a whole box of strawberries as well. Pretty high protein, high fat meals as you can see, but plenty of carbs in the strawberries, as I need to keep those topped up. I want to avoid feeling lethargic, run down. We have some long distance runs and things that we're doing as well, so I'm making sure to try and get enough carbs in as well from the fruit, but this diet is going to be heavily more based on protein and fat than anything else. So I'm finishing off my meals of the day here. This is my evening snack. So I have another one of the Baby Bells. I have a packet of beef jerky here. And I also am going to have 3 tablespoons of honey. Now, rounding out the day, my nutrition looks like 2018 calories, 150 grams of protein, 175 carb and 85 fat. So less protein than I'm used to, more fat and less carbs. Probably need to address the less protein tomorrow. So we'll see how these respond and what sort of impact these have on my hunger levels the rest of the evening. It is day 3 on the meat and fruit diet, so I am currently on Wednesday of this week. A couple of things I've noticed so far. One, my weight is down, so I'm down about half a kilogram from last week, which really is something I haven't been trying to do. I'm actually in a lean gaining phase at the moment, but we're doing a lot of running, so I don't actually mind seeing my body weight come down as we prepare for a half marathon. My runs, I haven't done any longer endurance runs this week. It's been very short distance and sprint tests, so I haven't had a chance to really test this out, but I do have an 18-kilometer run at the end of this week. That is going to be a big test of endurance, considering the amount of carbohydrates is probably reduced from what I'm used to. One thing I have really noticed with regards to the food is I don't get overly full, but I'm not incredibly hungry either. So my stomach doesn't usually distend out or bloat or anything along those lines after these meals. So I don't get as much satiation from the meals, but by the same token, I don't find that I'm overly hungry at all throughout the day. I've woke up hungry a couple of times, which is unusual for me, but again, it's probably down to having light lighter dinners, and I am absolutely missing my chocolate flexibility in the evening. That's probably the biggest hindrance on this, is I like the flexible nutrition approach and having, a bar of chocolate a day. So that's probably the biggest thing I've missed so far, but I'll give my full overview at the end of this week once I've been through the entire process for 7 days. So to summarise the last 7 days, now on screen you'll see my comparison photos. On the left was my starting, on the right was my current. My weight didn't change too much. It fluctuated down towards the first half of the week, but as I reintroduced more carbohydrates, more fruit and more honey, it did come back up, and I sort of plateaued in weight the entire week, so there wasn't an enormous change there. As mentioned in the previous clip, I did notice that I wasn't as full in terms of a distended belly you get from carbs, and I wasn't incredibly hungry at the same time, so my energy was pretty stable throughout the entirety of the challenge. Now there's a couple of things I'm going to change moving forward from trying out this diet, and it's incorporating more fruit. I enjoy fruit much more than I enjoy vegetables. I'm going to push more fruit into my diet rather than a heavy focus on vegetables, but I am absolutely going to put back into my diet chocolate and rice and other carbohydrates such as bread. So again, going back to a more flexible approach, but with more reliance on fruit, is probably the biggest takeaway that I have taken from this approach. Now, if you'd like to understand what sort of effect eating 200 grams of protein has on your body, off to the side is going to be what actually happens when you do that consistently.